So, Adam, take us through. I know your bill was signed into law Friday by the governor. Take us through from day one. How did this all start?
Sure. So this came to my radar in 2021 after I was sworn in as the new state rep for the 14th Bristol District. And a survivor known as Caitlin, who lives in North Attleboro, reached out to me about this issue. And what is the issue? The issue is that 35 other states, but not Massachusetts at the time, had a rule in place called the DNA exception rule. And what that means is that Massachusetts has a statute of limitation for rape or sexual assault that is 15 years, meaning that if prosecutors try to bring a case against an alleged rapist after the period of statute of limitations, that case would be thrown out in court. And what other states have done to support survivors is they've adopted the DNA exception rule. And what the DNA exception rule is that it's a rule that says if DNA evidence that was available at the crime scene originally is later matched up, even if it's beyond the 15-year statute of limitation, then prosecutors would have the ability to bring charges against that alleged rapist. And we filed that bill. And it had gone through several different committees over the years, and like everything on the legislature, it takes time to get things across the finish line. It's a deliberative process for many different reasons, and we were lucky enough to get this language included in the FY27 state budget. So the budget is really like any other bill. It's not just dollars and cents. It can include public policy, any changes to laws. It's the one bill that's guaranteed to get to the governor's desk. So the governor had supported this language in the iteration of her budget that she released. The House responded and also took up that charge, and the Senate thankfully did so as well, which doesn't happen very often. Oftentimes the House will do one thing and the Senate will do another, and the purpose of that is for negotiation purposes. But I think everybody really came together to say that this is such an important issue that we shouldn't be playing political games and trading over the public policy of what's best going to lift up survivors. So it all worked out.
It sounds like Massachusetts law finally catching up to science.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And as we were working on this issue, we met the two women who are survivors from the 1989 Framingham clothing store rape, where they were raped by the Boston serial rapist, and that was in 1989. And DNA evidence was available, but we didn't have a match to the rapist at the time. And as we were working on this bill, like I said, we were talking to them. About 2 years ago or so ago, we, as a Commonwealth, were able to identify their rapist through DNA. And the only reason the Commonwealth was able to charge him was because he had fled the state, which basically stops the clock for the statute of limitations. If he had never left the state, then he could be sitting outside the town hall, the department store again, or the senior center, or a public school, or anywhere, even though we had DNA evidence that linked him to this crime. So now, and we met other survivors who are in a similar situation. There was one, Louise, who was at the ceremony, who we met as well along the journey. And unfortunately for her, her alleged rapist stayed in Massachusetts the entire time. And in that example, charges weren't able to be brought against him. But in the future going forward, this will protect any survivor under the same sort of similar circumstances.
How proud are you as a representative for the people, North Attleboro, Mansfield, part of Attleboro, that a constituent comes forward and you were actually able to help them and many others like them, not only in the past but in the future?
I think that's how government is really supposed to work. We are a representative, and it's really in the name of that. Our job is to bring ideas that people come up with and bring them to the State House. And we really sat down with our constituents and all of the stakeholders and the media who really wanted to prioritize this to get this across the finish line. And the system worked. Like I said, it takes a long time sometimes, but we want to make sure that we get it right, especially if we're writing laws and we're trying to catch up with these problems. We want to make sure that we're putting forward the very best public policy that it's actually going to be meaningful. So I'm very proud to have worked with our residents, not just on this bill, but actually quite a few of my bills actually come from ideas from residents. Some of them are not as important, I would say, in the grand scheme of things as this, but it was important enough to that person for them to be able to reach out to me to ask me to introduce that. So I take a lot of pride in being able to say that I work with our constituents, our residents, and bringing their ideas to the table.